This is TB Talks and BS Walks. Join the conversation or the BS. Here are the masterminds behind the microphone, Tyler and Brian.
Welcome, everybody, to TB Talks and BS Walks. I'm Tyler. As always, with me is my co-host, Brian. Today, a fantastic show lined up for you guys. We have a special guest on the show, and he is the man behind the opening of our show, the little audio snippet that you hear at the beginning of every show. Rod Kittleman is in the house. Rod, how's it going, man?
Going pretty good. Got a little bit of sunshine today and some warmer temperatures, so can't complain about that.
Hey,
yes, sir.
That is always good. Brian, what's the weather like in New Mexico today?
For the first day in like 2 weeks, we're up to about 60 degrees. It's kind of nice.
Well, there you go. It's about 58 here. A little bit of wind, but not bad. So we wanted to bring Rod on the show today. For those of you that may not know, now Rod, correct me if I'm wrong, but Rod is the longest running morning radio show host in the state. Is that correct? Rod, is that?
I don't know about the state, but I would say in Springfield, Missouri, and I would say the state's probably a pretty good bet as well, but I've been doing radio for 40 years.
40 years. And you can catch Rod on KADI 99 Hit FM, and you do the morning show. What is that, 5:30, 6:30 to 10? What are your hours?
We do the Fun of the Morning show from 6 to 10 on 99.5 KADI.
40 years. That's longer than I've been alive.
Started thing in 1978.
1978. Well, so if you guys are in the listening area, be sure to tune in and catch Rod weekday mornings. It's a good time. Rod is also a fantastic musician. We have shared the stage on numerous occasions. He's a fantastic keyboard player and does all kinds of things. So he started radio 40 years ago, and we decided to do this podcast. We have no idea what we're doing, but I've always wanted to find that out to try to get into radio. And most of the time you have to intern somewhere, and it's just kind of it's a little difficult to get into. And then I know up and coming, there's not much money in it, especially if you're trying to intern. So I thought, well, why not start social media, and we'll take Twitter and we'll take the Facebook, and we'll see if we can't get a podcast rolling. I don't even know what number episode is this, Brian. Do you know? Or are you keeping tabs?
I think we're on 13 now.
13, okay.
I'll have to double check.
Lucky number 13. Our Twitter is group.
So are you making more money doing the podcast than you would be interning at a radio station?
Well, I don't think we're making any money on the podcast yet. So that's a fair bet to say no.
Yeah.
But now, Winter Jam was this past weekend or this past week. Now, were you involved in that as well? I know you normally do that.
Yeah, the radio station was involved in it. We presented Winter Jam. Unfortunately, because of health issues, it was probably the first year I've had to not be there. Going to try to get this kidney transplant, you got to stay. It's kind of an oxymoron. To have a kidney transplant, you have to be healthy. So,
Right.
You don't want to get the flu. You don't want to get sick. You don't want to get anything that would cause you to keep you from getting listed for a kidney transplant. So, I'm trying to stay away from people as much as possible. In my business, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But you got 9,000 people there in a concert venue. It's very easy to catch something from somebody, and
Well, and I know too, Missouri is like one of the states that has the widespread outbreak of the flu right now. I think it's already killed like 30 some kids or something like that. I mean, it's been pretty intense. So yeah, I totally understand that, which I kind of wanted to talk to you about that too. Do you have some kind of first of all, I guess let's go back and take us through. You've been on dialysis now for. I mean, how long have you been doing that?
No, dialysis for 8 years.
8 years. So, and what were you diagnosed with? Like, I mean, kind of take us through your process, and then kind of tell people, because I know you have a donation page set up to where people can kind of donate to help you along this journey, if I'm not mistaken. So, kind of take us through. I mean, from your diagnosis, and then kind of what you're going through, and the process, and all those things.
Well, diabetes runs in my family. High blood pressure runs in my family, and so does kidney disease. Mm-hmm. And one thing leads to another. They're all associated. If you're ever diagnosed with diabetes or high blood pressure, then just be warned that kidney failure is a possibility. They always say, well, you can lose a limb, you can lose, this and that. That's true, but kidney failure is one of the big things that diabetics have to deal with. For whatever reason, you don't hear that much about it. You hear about stroke, you hear about blindness. Those things are real, but kidney failure is another thing. And it runs in my family. And about 8 years ago, I came down with pneumonia. And prior to that happening, my doctors were saying, your kidneys are failing. They're not pulling the job like they should, and we need to keep an eye on you. Mm. So we were, doing that, and then I came down with pneumonia. Well, the pneumonia basically caused my kidneys to fail. That was threw them over the cliff. So how
long have you been in the process of? I mean, how long have you been in the process of trying to get a transplant? I mean, is this something that recently you got on a waiting list, or have you been on a waiting list for some time?
No. What happened was, as soon as I went on dialysis, my daughter wanted to donate a kidney to me. So she went and got tested to see if she would be a match. And then I had to go through a bunch of tests to see that I would be eligible to accept a kidney donation. So we went through all the tests together, took about a year, and we got down to the last test, and they said you cannot be a donor because we found kidney stones. So my daughter was kicked out of the donor process and was not allowed to be a donor ever because of kidney stones. And it was devastating for her because that's what she wanted to do.
Sure.
It was kind of a half, kind of I would say I was relieved that she couldn't be a donor, because I mean, she was putting her life on the line for her dad. I mean, that's pretty hard, and for me, it's like, what if, the kidney, my body rejects her kidney, therefore she has sacrificed a kidney for me. Mm-hmm. She has put her life at risk. She has sacrificed the possibility of having any kids by becoming a kidney donor.
And then your body rejects it, so it was all for nothing.
It was all for nothing, exactly. Yeah. So for me, it was a relief that she was rejected. Therefore, I didn't have to say no to the gift that she wanted to give me.
Yeah.
So at the end of that year of trying to get this all done, I just decided, forget it. I'm not going to have a kidney transplant. I'm going to just stay on doing dialysis. We've got it figured out, the process of how to do. And so I just continued on doing the dialysis process. We were able to, during the process of the last 8 years, do the dialysis at home, which kept me away from the clinic and everybody else in the clinic. And I just do it at home, and my wife's my caregiver. And that, my friends, has been life-changing if you're on dialysis. If you have the opportunity to do dialysis at home, that's the way to do it.
Now, I know that I know that you and I have talked before, and haven't you actually ran? Maybe not actually ran the morning show, but ran an interview like while you're hooked up to the machine. I mean, they're at your house. You know, I mean, I can imagine you've probably done some radio work, live on the air while you're hooked up to the machine at home.
I've done radio in a hospital bed. I've done radio at Disney. I've done radio everywhere, including
rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Ron Kittleman will prevail.
There you go.
Technology is awesome, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So your wife has been your caregiver, and you're doing that at home,
Right.
And then I guess you kind of kept pushing, and then you saw a light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, regarding to the transplant.
Well, what happened was, I mean, we've been going on 8 years, and it's a sacrifice for my wife because she has to be here. We do dialysis every other night, so that means it takes about 4 hours to do the treatment every night or every other. So, and she has to be here with me when we do it. So, I mean, she's sacrificing her time away from doing things to be with me, and she says, she goes, I hate to see you being tied to a machine every other night because I mean it makes it hard for me to travel. It has cramped my style for being a musician and going out and playing on weekends or being gone very long because I have to find a dialysis machine.
Right.
Now I can take a machine with me. It's portable enough, but it's still a pretty big hassle to do it. So it's a lot easier just to do nothing than to try to go and take the machine with you or do dialysis on the road.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm a professional musician, and it has put a cramp in my style. And she said, I hate to see you do this. She goes, are you going to, the rest of your life is going to be this way? She goes, you need to have a transplant. And she says, I'm going to she goes, I want to be a donor. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. Just like my daughter,
right.
Sacrificing them for me. I'd rather just die.
Wow.
And she goes, I want to try to be a donor for you. And and all the tests that I did 8 years ago are now null and void because it's been so long ago. So I have to go through the rigorous testing again. That's your process.
Right. Yeah.
And so she said, you get tested. And she goes, you promise. She goes, I want to try to be a match for you. And she goes, I'm going to lose some weight. I want to lose 50 pounds. And if I lose 50 pounds, you have to promise me you go to see if you can be a kidney transplant, transplant. I said, all right, you're on. I laughed at her. I was like, there's no way. There's no way she's going to lose 50 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
Blow the hole she did. She went on weight.
She had to eat those words, yeah.
I made a promise. I was, all right, let's go and see what happens. So we called, I think it was Tulsa. We heard they had a good kidney program, and we went up there, to get tested. Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind that all these programs, all these kidney transplant hospitals, have certain requirements of the recipient that they have to go through before they even consider them to give them a kidney. And Tulsa said I was too fat. My BMI was too high for their requirements.
Oh, how nice.
Which really made me mad because I just, had been losing weight. I lost like 40 pounds over the last year, and I was still too fat for them. So I said, well, fine, I'm going to call KU, see what they say. So I called KU, and I was just right. That was no problem. So we went up there to KU, and they evaluated me and looked at me, and the doctor said, how long have you been doing dialysis? And I said, about 7 years. He goes, I would have never known by looking at you, or seeing you, or talking to you that you are a kidney patient. He says, you don't look like it. You don't act like it.
Yeah.
I said, well, that's good,
Right.
So he goes, I think you would be a great candidate for a kidney transplant, but you have to go and do some tests. We want to make sure that your body of receiving another kidney from somebody else.
Mm.
We need to make sure that your heart is strong. We need to make sure that there's no other issues in your body that would prevent you from having a kidney, including making sure that your teeth are nice and good.
Okay.
So
Wait. The teeth, like the teeth in your mouth, have an effect on a kidney transplant.
Yes.
I did not know that. That's weird.
Like I said, you have to be, the oxymoron is you have to be healthy to get a kidney.
Wow.
Takes everything in you sitting with the doctor. If I was healthy, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So people don't realize that getting a transplant organ, that they don't want it. Like I said, they want to make sure that your body is strong enough, doesn't have any other diseases or any other infections or any other thing that would, because when you get another organ, they feed you all this immune suppressant drug, so that your body won't reject the other organ.
Yeah.
And it's very easy when they give you these other drugs to suppress your immune system, that, you know, if you've got any cancers, if you've got any open wounds, if you've got any cavities that infection can get in, anything, any heart problems, if your heart's not strong enough, your body rejects the kidney, and then the kidney that somebody sacrificed is gone to waste.
Yep.
Or you die. One of the two. You know.
Either way, that no bueno.
Yeah.
Either
Right.
way.
So anyway, so they have had me going through all these grueling tests to go through, make sure that my body was ready and fit to accept somebody else's kidney. Once that happens, then they put you on the list for a kidney donation. So since September, I have been, well, actually since July, I have been going through all these tests and sending back reports to KU to show that I'm fit to have a kidney. So far, so good. I have I got to the very end of all the tests and everything looked good, and then they found a wound on my foot, a diabetic wound that won't heal properly, and I have to get that healed before they'll even consider me.
Oh,
jeez.
Right there at the cusp.
So now, do you have, I guess at that point, is there going to be some place to where, people can go to donate to help pay for that? I mean, if it all goes through and you're approved and you get put on the list.
There is a organization that KU told me to call because of the expense, not only because of the preliminary medical stuff that has to happen prior to kidney transplant and getting listed, but after transplant, there's still a lot, and I mean a lot of expense.
Sure.
To help cover costs of doctors, travel, accommodations, drugs. I have one drug that would cost $2,000 out of pocket after insurance per month for 6 months.
Wow.
So they're talking about $60,000 a year just in expenses after transplant.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, Medicare pays for kidney transplants. Once you become a kidney patient, you're automatically put on Medicare. And if you're not, you need to check into it because it's a government law.
Oh, wow.
So that takes care of that. But the added expenses of post-transplant are still there, of at least a minimum of $60,000 a year.
And that's just to keep everything on the up and up once the process is completed.
Right, pay for the drugs, pay for the extra medical care, everything. There's an organization that's been around for 35 years called transplants.org. They're based out of Memphis. And they help raise funds for transplants of all kinds, whether it be kidney, liver, heart, lung, whatever. They help transplant recipients raise the funds to help cover all the costs, because typically most transplant patients have the same amount of cost because of all the drugs and medical care that has to happen.
Right.
So it is an organization. They have helped me already with the money that's come in that people have donated, have helped cover. I mean, I had 2 dental crowns put in at $1,000 a piece. So
Wow.
it was about a $2,500 dental bill that was out of my pocket. That folks who gave to the transplant.org helped pay for.
Okay.
Brian, why don't you copy that link?
I already have it
and
down.
put that down in the description for when they go to YouTube or Facebook to any form that you guys are listening to the show. If you guys take 5 minutes out of your time to go to that link and donate, I know Brian and I will certainly donate. And as you guys can tell, this money is well spent. So if you guys feel like donating, we're going to post that link, and you guys are welcome. We encourage you guys to go make a donation. And
now, does this
Rod,
go on an individual basis? Do we need your name, or do they just donate to the organization itself? And
no, you have to put my name in. There's a search bar there, and it says search for patient or client, and put in my name, Rod, R-O-D, last name Kittleman, Kittleman, and then it'll bring up my picture, and you'll see my story.
Gotcha.
And then a
All
button push to donate.
Well, that is
Appreciate
I would hope that you keep us posted on your journey as well. I know
Yes.
I know you your Facebook and stuff, you kind of post some updates and things like that, but yeah, we're rooting for you and definitely want to see how this turns out, and yeah, please keep us posted on that. And like I said, we'll post the info on our page, and that way listeners have a chance to go do that and make a donation. My dad actually only has one kidney. He had Hodgkin's disease when he was 20. So over 25 years ago. And the chemotherapy that he went on just destroyed one of his kidneys. He never had a transplant. He's never had any further complications, but he has just been operating on one kidney for the last 25 years. But that's I did not know that that it took that much to get even on the list. I think that's a behind the scenes thing that people don't realize, that what kind of job it is and all the testing you have to go through. And I think it's pretty cool that obviously your family is so supporting and wanting to be a donor for you, and God is great, and I'm sure that everything will work out.
Sure.
So yeah, please keep us posted on your journey. Couple of things here, since we got Rod on the call too. Couple things that want to go over, and I'm kind of curious to hear Rod's opinion. We try to cover, current event type of things on the show, and yeah, we tried to cover some things the listeners don't know a couple of days ago. But Brian had some computer audio issues, and we were muted the entire time.
Yeah.
So after we recorded the whole show, we got nothing. So Larry Nassar, which some of you guys may know, was the U.S. gymnast team doctor.
Mhm.
And Rod, I'm sure you heard in the news, he just got sentenced for, they said 150 women stepped forward and described their sexual encounters with Dr. Nassar. And I guess, I don't know how long this went on, but he had already received 60 years in prison for some child pornography charges. And the judge that sentenced him on this case sentenced him to another 40. So she, and I quote, stated, "I just signed your death warrant, possibly looking at up to 175 years in prison," which he's already 52 or 54. So he won't make the 170, I don't believe. But, from somebody that, has myself and Rod, who have daughters, it's always a good thing to see justice for people like that, but I can't imagine, what these women went through, because I know, most of them now are adults, but at the time when this happened, I mean, they said they were 6, 7, 8 years old, and, can you imagine going a lifetime, I mean, without telling anybody anything, because I think when you're that age, I think he concealed it by, he was giving them medical examinations. And then, I don't know, I'm sure it traumatized these young girls, but there was one point in the trial where he stated, he was pleading for the judge to stop letting these witnesses come up and give their account. And the judge said, "No, my courtroom's open to everybody that wants to come, talk about what you did." And so I know justice was definitely served in that instance. I'm just kind of, curious to get Rod's thoughts on that. I don't know. I'm sure you followed it, but that whole deal that just went down.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the news and what happened, what went down on there, and unfortunately, I just think it's the tip of the iceberg. That this is probably happening a lot more other places, and this is the one guy that got caught. Right.
And I telling Brian the other day, what a time to be alive. I mean, it just seems like, this happens more and more. And, with the recent outbreak we've had of, celebrity sex scandals and all of these sexual assault cases coming out of the woodwork. I just think it's the time that we're living in. I went back to my old high school yesterday. I had a meeting for Miss Dallas County pageant that I do every year. That's picking up again, getting ready to be in full swing for March. And so I went back to do signups yesterday, and there were students that had neon colored hair. They had holes in their jeans. And I can remember when I was in school, you got a trip to the office and sent home to change, if you wore clothes like that. And now tattoos are allowed. Kids got faces full of piercings. And I talked to one of the ladies on the administration, and she said, well, with all the lawsuits going on now in the school systems and everything like that, with all this equality stuff, they feel that they can't come down on somebody because they have a tattoo or because they have facial piercings or they want to have green hair. Yeah. So, it's what a time to be alive. Things are ever changing. And I can't imagine, Rod, when you were in school, not to focus on your age or live on the show, but I can imagine when you were in school that, you didn't probably even see that kind of thing back then.
Well, you had your rebels and things, but the point back then was we had rules, and you didn't break the rules. The schools had rules,
clear consequences.
Clear consequences. They stuck to the gun, and what has happened is I think society has done it to themselves. Is like, we've taken away the rules, we've taken away boundaries, and that's what happens. It's kind of like you're going down the highway, and it's a curvy road, and you've got guardrails on the side. Those guardrails aren't there to be mean. They're there for your safety and to help you stay on the road. And when you take the guardrails away, and you come to a curve in the road, you go off the road because there's nothing there to to keep you on the road. Yep. And I think society has taken, in the guise of, well, everybody has free speech and free equally this and free expression to do whatever they want and be whoever they want. They're taking the guide rails of life off, and now everybody's crashing and burning, and that's what you got.
Did you hear that, Brian, and I don't know if you heard this either, did you hear that the NFL rejected a commercial that somebody submitted to be aired during the Super Bowl that was, pretty much talking about, encouraging everybody to stand during the playing of the national anthem, and the NFL rejected it.
Oh, and came out with their own.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, they had done a, we stand for the nation type of thing, and they changed it. We stand for our veterans. So
okay, so I guess it doesn't matter if you live in the United States and value your country. I mean, they're just selecting it too if you've served. Well,
yeah,
I don't know
exactly. It was ridiculous though. It cut it down from being a patriotic statement to just we stand. It's cool. We stand.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. I don't know. I didn't even watch much football this year. I mean, it wasn't worth watching. The ratings went down. After that whole protest started. And I know we had a big show about that. I don't disagree with protest. It just depends on. I guess that's part of the Constitution is you have a right to protest.
Yeah,
but
it's the way you do it.
Here's something about protests. I see on Facebook all these guys that are complaining about the NFL not standing for the national anthem, yet they still watch football.
Yeah.
If you're going to protest, if you're going to take a stand for something, take a stand. Don't just,
Yeah.
about it.
Well, and that's what we discussed too. Was if you're protesting and you have you believe you have a legitimate reason to protest, then protest. I mean, I think there's a certain way you go about it, but you can't pick and choose how you want to protest it. If you're gonna protest it, go all in and protest it. And everybody said, well, we're not gonna watch any games this year, then, or we're gonna quit watching it. And I don't imagine that happened. The NFL's not hurting for viewers. I don't imagine. So
I'm watching the Super Bowl because I don't like the protests. I'm sorry.
Well,
right. Well, and I mean, I'm excited to see Justin Timberlake at the halftime show. I think that'll be a real treat. He's always killer to watch. I saw he was on Stephen Colbert last week or a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about his halftime performance and said, Justin, last time you were on, I said you've done the Super Bowl halftime show 3 times now, and last time you were on the show, your partner had a wardrobe malfunction. Are we going to see a repeat of that? And he didn't really have much to comment. He just stated that it was going to be a good show, and wasn't expected that to happen. So, but I remember that back when Janet Jackson was with him. That was that picture I think was all over social media, the internet for 6 months
because it was so unplanned. It was so unplanned.
Yeah, exactly. One more thing I want to talk about, and then I guess we're about there time-wise. Brian, have you got your Amazon key yet? I know you ordered your membership, didn't you?
Oh, no. No.
Rod, have you heard about the Amazon key?
Where they give me a key, I can let them get into my house to drop off my package?
Exactly. So, there you can go to Amazon, and how much did Brian, you looked it up, was it $200?
$250, I believe.
$250 to install a camera system, okay? And you install the camera system, I guess, somewhere where you can view your front porch, and it, Bluetooth or sends a signal to your cell phone when somebody is at your door. I think that there was one of 2 ways. You could either press a button to unlock your door and let your friendly neighborhood FedEx or UPS man go inside your house to deliver a package. Or, you set up a code and you give them the code ahead of time, and then they just go up to your door and punch in the code and go in and drop your package. Anybody that would do that has lost their mind.
Streamline, secure, not quite.
Attention, hackers!
Yeah, we actually talked about that. I can imagine. I would guarantee there's already somebody that's hacked that. They posted a still frame of your empty front porch while they're inside cleaning out your house.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I just can't imagine. But we talked about that before we found out that our whole show was ruined because Brian forgot to hit the unmute button. But I can't imagine somebody paying for something like that. I don't trust anybody that much.
No.
$250 to come rob your house. There you go.
Exactly.
It'd be
Brian,
funnier if they left the package, but everything else was gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here's your package, but I have a brand new set of home decor that I happened to take while I was there. Brian, what's our time like? Are we out of time?
We're at 35.
35? Okay. I guess about 10 more minutes. Do you have anything, Brian, do you wanted to cover? We got about 10 more minutes, and then we'll...
Well, we covered Nassar, and it brought up to the podcast that I did a while back ago with Aziz Ansari, how that's kind of blowing up, or it did blow up. I don't know if it's been resolved yet, but did you hear about that?
No, I haven't. I haven't followed it.
I stated my concerns on the last podcast, but it concerned me that he was dating this girl, or went out on a date with this girl, and our old saying used to be, one thing led to another, and they had a night,
Mm-hmm.
The next day, he received a text message saying that she felt uncomfortable and that he pressured her into the situation, even though she gave him bodily clues.
Exactly.
Nonverbal cues that she didn't want to do anything because no was too difficult, or saying no, or, as I stated before, when did I have a headache not become a good excuse?
Well, like I said, man, that's just, I think all this stuff's coming out of the woodwork now, and it's just all the hypersensitivity issues going on. And I think if anybody thinks they can make a dime off somebody else because of something that happened to them, even if they fully consented to that, my work in law enforcement, showed that as unfortunate as it is, most females have the upper hand in that kind of thing, unless there is, undeniable proof, that it didn't happen. If a female steps forward and says, she felt uncomfortable about any situation, or he said this and I didn't like it, it doesn't take much before, they're coming down on the other party, and so women already have the upper hand in that. I believe, and I think that's just due to the times,
Yeah.
And that's not.
He's helping us at all, though.
No, I don't think so either.
Sitting there.
But,
Well, I got
I'm sorry.
story. I got a story.
Yeah.
So I went to this Chinese buffet, and it was like all you could eat for like $16, and I really wasn't that hungry, but I went to the buffet anyway, and they had all this food that was spread out on the buffet, and I kept going back, and there was just so much food that I just had to keep going back. Well, when I got home, I got sick.
Right.
So, it's the Chinese buffet's fault because they were the ones that had all the food for me to eat.
Yeah, because they forced you to go back. Exactly.
Right.
If they would not have had all that food out there for me to get, I wouldn't have gone back. I'm sure of that.
Exactly.
That kind of reminds me of Billy Bob Thornton was talking about, and I don't know if you guys know this. I'm sure Rod does, but Billy Bob is also an avid musician. When he's not making movies, he has a band called the Boxmasters, and they do kind of country folk kind of stuff. It's different, but he was talking. I was watching something that he did a while back on the TV, and they were talking about his movies, and they said, you made Bad Santa and Bad Santa 2. Yeah, because it was around Christmas time that I was watching this, and they said, that's not really your typical family-friendly Christmas film. But they said, have you ever caught any slack from anybody, because because of the way that you made your Christmas movies? And he said, yeah. He said, I was at a conference one time, and we were promoting the first Bad Santa. And he said, we were having a Q&A panel, and the lady in the crowd raised her hand, and so they called on her. And she addressed me and said, yeah, Mr. Thornton, do you feel bad at the fact that you have ruined Christmas and the name of Jesus and the Bible because of your disgusting Christmas film. And Billy Bob says, I looked at her and I said, well, ma'am, no one forced you to watch the movie. And secondly, I've read the Bible and Santa Claus ain't in it. and I thought that was, I just that statement that, it just shows the ignorance, I guess, of some people. She thought that, because it was a movie portraying Santa Claus, that it was ruining Christmas and Jesus in the Bible. I don't think Santa Claus's name is mentioned in the Bible at all. So, but, and he's like, no one's forcing you to watch it, we didn't make you turn it on. So, yeah, it's all back to hypersensitivity, man. And, it's back, my comments about President Trump, I think the guy's done a lot of good. I just think he needs an ego check, I think. It seems like he's always doing
Twitter
something.
Censor.
Well, and maybe that's it. I don't know, Rod, if you follow Donald Trump on Twitter or not, but it seems to me like that he's always seeking, I don't know, some kind of validation and praise from somebody. And I don't know. He's done a lot of good. I'm not saying he hasn't.
Well, here's my feeling on Trump. He's the first president we've had access to know what he's thinking.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know that some people are uncomfortable with that because they put the president in a
On a pedestal.
high standard and Crystal Palace, but he's just like the rest of us. He's just got a job different than us. And I like the fact that he does let us know what he's thinking. I don't like the fact that he's not a pushover. And so it's a different ball game than what a lot of people have been used to, and that's why a lot of people voted for him.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the back and forth between him and Kim Jong-un and all of their talk about the nuclear buttons and all of that? Do you think we're headed for a nuclear war?
I don't know. Is there going to be a tornado tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't know, man. God, I don't know.
Here's the way I look at it. With all the stuff that I've been through and the things that I've seen, my faith in God, I pretty much just let Him take care of it. I don't worry about it. I just make sure that I'm good with Him, and making sure, I treat everybody else good and treat them like I want to be treated. And I don't worry about what everybody else is doing. I may not like it, but hey, that's between them and God. So,
well, and that's I think we'll all agree on that. All right, last thing, Brian, what are our Twitter followers at right now? What are we up to?
I will have to bring that up. It was 85 last time.
We haven't hit 100 yet. The magic number is 100.
Not quite yet.
Just to keep you guys in, once we hit 100 follows on Twitter, we are going to give away some podcast swag. We're going to choose one of those followers. We're going to have a drawing, and we're going to choose one of you. And you will receive your choice of a hoodie, a T-shirt, or a hat. It will have our podcast logo on it that Brian's lovely wife designed for us. Mm-hmm. And so keep the follows coming on Twitter. And maybe if we start getting a massive amount of viewers, maybe Rod will give us a shout out on the morning show for our podcast and promote our show.
Follow me on Twitter if you want to see what I have to say. Rod on the radio.
Rod on the radio.
Link
and
below.
Be sure and catch him. I said on the morning show. Are you Monday through Friday?
Yes.
Okay. Be sure to check him out. Rod, thanks so much, man, for being on the show today. It was a treat to have you.
Well, thanks for having me on.
And like I said, please keep us updated on your journey with your kidney transplant, and we wish you the best of luck. And so we're going to post the link one more time in the description of the video, and you guys will be able to click on that. We'll post Rod's name and the website, and if you guys have 5 minutes and have even a couple bucks to spare, I know it goes a long way. So Rod, thanks again for being on the show. And since you're here, I'm going to ask you to give us an outro. Give us your best radio outro that they tuned in and watched the show today.
Okay, now the name of the show is what? BNS?
It's TB Talks and BS Walks.
Okay, TB Talks and BS Walks.
So give us your best radio outro, and then Brian, you cut it when he's done. You cut it.
All right.
Here we go.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to TB Talks and BS Walks. I think that's how we say it.
And that's how we say it.
Tune in again next week. Find out what BS and TS is saying.